Sword and Thistle by S.L. Rowland. I had some mixed opinions on this book, and I wasn't actually too sure if I wanted to talk about it, but as it sat with me and it just kind of rolled around in my head as time went by, I realized that the longer time went on, the more I liked it in memory. So I went back and gave it a second read. And yeah, I don't know, maybe I was just in a weird spot whenever I read it the first time, but on the second read, I liked it so much more than the first read. And I really want to talk about it because it does a lot of things that I really like to see in a book personally. But what is this book ultimately about? We got our main character, Dobbin, who is a seasoned adventurer. He's one of the more well-known adventurers throughout the entirety of the kingdom, and on a recent visit to kind of his home city that he likes to frequent the most, he gets a call from a noble for a quest specifically for him. They don't put it up on a message board or a quest board at the local Adventurers Guild. They want Dobbin specifically for this one. We find out that Dobbin has worked with this particular noble several times in the past. They like his work. They want to keep working with him specifically. And this particular group of nobles, I love silly stuff like this. Their whole thing is that they're basically a food cult. They hire adventurers to get the most bizarre foods that they can find in the world. They're like, we will pay you top dollar to get this food. Get it for us so we can try it. Because what else are you going to do when you have that much money? So they hire Dobbin for this new food they discovered, dragon fire mushrooms. And supposedly these dragon fire mushrooms, once consumed, give you these hallucinations, these visions, and whether or not they are hallucinations or actual visions, they don't particularly care. They just want to experience what these mushrooms can do. Dobbin, being the seasoned adventurer he is, knows the best way to start any adventure is with a healthy dose of research. So he heads on down to the local library and he does some research on these things. He's never heard of them before. So he starts doing some research on them and he finds out they grow only in very specific conditions. One of these conditions that is required is that they only grow in land that has been touched by a dragon's flame. So he's got to go to dragon territory, or at least somewhere that has been so scorched by dragon flame that it is still feeling the effects of it. So the nearest place he can think of are these ruins of a kingdom that was once completely destroyed by a dragon. And we find out why he's so willing to take on such dangerous task. First of all, this job will pay an immense amount, enough that he can retire on. And also we find out that he has been giving a good portion of the money that he has been receiving from his quests to a particular individual. Don't want to give too many spoilers, but he's been giving his money to a particular individual. So he wants to get enough money so that this particular individual is set and he can retire. That's the basic premise about going on this adventure. Now, what I really like about it is that the whole first half of the book feels kind of like a cozy adventure, right? Pretty low stakes the whole way. We get a lot of good characterization of Dobbin. He is jovial, he is jolly, he's laughing a lot. Even whenever he is attacked by bandits or monsters, he is in control. He is non-violent when he doesn't have to be. You know, if he's attacked by bandits and he just disarms them and he's like, that all you got? Cool, we're good. Get out of here, you goofballs. And he's just having a good time, and it's just a fun little jaunty adventure. And I think that's what I didn't like about it too much the first time around. It kind of felt like a power fantasy for the most part. And I was like, okay, well, you're just really showing him off as like this really powerful dude. And I'm like, well, where are the stakes? But on the second read, I realized what they were actually doing, and I completely missed it the first time. But what they're really doing is really setting Dobbin as, like, told us that he's a great adventurer within the story early on, and then shows us that he's a great adventurer early on throughout the first half of the book. Anytime he stops by a new tavern or new city on his way to this land touched by dragonfire, he makes friends everywhere he goes. He's very well-traveled, well-spoken, and very good at what he does. And I think that that is done brilliantly to lulling us into a false sense of security, because once we do actually get to this location where it's like, okay, dragons attacked here a long time ago, and we don't fully know why yet. But once we get here, he is like no longer the same person because he's in a completely different situation, right? This is a level of danger that even Dobbin is taking very seriously. He has gone from being jovial and joyful and like full of life, even for his age. He is now like, we gotta lock in, boys. We're not messing around anymore. This is the big leagues. So we get introduced to these dangers that feel properly dangerous because we know how skilled Dobbin is. And I thought that was really well done. For some reason, I was too stupid to pick up on that the first time I read it. Whoopsie doops. And the trials that he overcomes, the monsters that he faces within these lands, really engaging, really creative ways that he is able to take out some of these monsters because, he's not able to just purely overpower them. So we get to see his ingenuity and cleverness really shine through. And the whole story has this really well done, weaved in theme about, not letting past mistakes keep you stuck in the past. Again, I don't really want to give any spoilers as to how that particular story is told, but I think that is a theme that is weaved into the story perfectly. There are really good parallels to Dobbin's own experience as well as other experiences. And there's another character that really takes the pains and mistakes of the past, and she uses that to better the future as opposed to being stuck in the past. So we get to see how it affects this person, this place. And that's just a really well done theme that gets interweaved. And, I liked it a lot more on a second read, but I do still have a few issues with it here and there. As I mentioned, the first half, Dobbin is much more jovial and jolly. It did get a little repetitive, I think. I think that the first half of the book probably could have been condensed down to like a third. It definitely felt like a good bit of it could have been trimmed because it did feel a little bit repetitive of, problem solved, and just kind of like no issue happening there. For me, it wasn't until the second half of the book that I really was like, all right, we're in it now, having a great time, really locked into the events that are going on. That was something that I noticed. Other than that, really liked this. The cozy aspects were nice and cozy. The adventuring aspects were good and adventurous. And it has a really good, heartwarming resolution to everything. Highly recommend this one. And it's also relatively short. I mean, it's not too thick. It can be read through pretty quickly. So if you want to add something to your TBR, or just have a nice quick weekend read, or if you got a nice long evening where you can just sit down and read a book, it's a really nice adventure to go on. So yeah, definitely recommend picking that up if you got the time. But those are just my thoughts on Sword and Thistle. If you have read it, let me know what your thoughts are down below, or if you plan to read it, and get that conversation going. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.